My name is Chris Bell, and for all you sales and marketing people out there, you've all had to endure the experience of having to sell something to a customer, and then when it came down to close, you just couldn't do it, and the customer did not buy the item. When it comes to closing, it is the last, hardest, and most important part when it comes to sales. It is the hardest because it is the part where a customer has to make a decision on whether to buy the item, and the seller feels they really have no power whatsoever. It is the most important because it can either make or break a sale. Even after all the sales prospecting, setting up the meeting, and making the perfect presentation, depending on how you close can decide the outcome on whether the customer buys or doesn't buy the item. You have to remember that it's not how you start, it's how you finish. You have to look at it as playing a football game. You can't just drive the ball all the way to the opponent's 1 yard line and then get a turnover. You have to put the ball in the end zone. You have to finish. In other words, you have to close. The book, The Art of Closing by Brian Tracy, goes into great detail of the art of closing and gives a lot of good do's and don'ts when it comes to closing. When reading this book, one of the main concepts I got from it was to break the sales barrier. Brian Tracy, he talked about whenever he dealt with customers about how that when he would close, he would say, well, what do you think? What do you want? And they would say, well, I'll call you back with my decision. And Brian Tracy was sick of this because nobody would ever call him back and he wasn't getting any sales. So one day when somebody said, well, I'll call you back, he said, well, I don't do callbacks. I need the answer right here and there. So the customer said, really? And Brian said, yeah. And the customer said, well, I guess I'll take the deal then. And he wrote him a check and Brian made the sale. And basically what he wanted people to get from this was that you have to force the customer to take action. You can't just sit back and let them make all the decisions. You have to force them. You have to force their hand somehow. Another concept from this book that I picked up from Brian was that of sales personality. And basically what he talked about was that 80% of what you're selling to the customer is you. It's not the price, it's not the item, it's not anything, it's you. And so basically by the time that you close, you have to have that customer 100% sold on the person that you are. He has to be able to trust you. He has to know what type of person you are, what type of person he's doing business with. And that's very important when it comes to closing. Another concept from this book that I picked up was the failure formula. A lot of people, when they come to sales, they ask Brian, like, how do I sell something that I don't like, that I don't believe in? And Brian said, you already set yourself up for failure. You have to sell something that you love. You have to like what you're selling. You have to believe in it. You have to believe that it's good for the people out there. You have to be enthusiastic about it, be able to express those feelings to the customers. Because if you don't do that, then you'll never be able to sell. Because even people that are in bad markets, they're still able to sell things that they love because they're enthusiastic and they have that energy about them. And one of the last concepts I picked up from Brian Tracy's book, The Art of Closing, of the 2 magic questions. And basically, what he meant from this was that when you're closing, once you deal with a customer, once you close, and whether or not you make that deal, go back and look on how you close and say, well, what did I do right? And look on the things that you did right. And then the next question is, well, what did you not do? And then go back and look on what you didn't do, and see how you can make improvements. And those are the things that I picked up from The Art of Closing by Brian Tracy. And you should go out and get this book today. Thank you.